lọ́jọ́kọjọ́ nígbàkúgbà bàbá ni bàbá ń jẹ́ lọ́jọ́kọjọ́ nígbàkúgbà bàbá ni bàbá ń ṣe. We lead while others follow. We lead while others follow. Vicinity FM ọ̀gálàjẹ́ Adéọlá Noite ló ní ẹ̀ máa gbọ́. Mo fọwọ́ ẹ̀ sọ̀yà. We lead while others follow. Vicinity FM àwa ní bàbá. We lead while others follow.
Music. Sports.
In towards Lukaku.
Entertainment. Politics. All on your darling station, Vicinity.
News from around the world. Vicinity FM 95.3.
This is Vicinity 95.3 FM. Ikejile Ijesha. The time is 12 o'clock. I am Oluwafunke Israel with Global News. First headlines: Defense Ministry vows to win the war against insecurity by end of 2025. Sudanese migrants fleeing war-torn country killed in Libyan deserts. And Russia-Ukraine begins major prison swap amidst conflict. Now the news in full. Defense Minister Abubakar Badru reiterates the country's stance of total victory over insecurity by the end of 2025. Under the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the minister made the statement during a documentary interview set to air on President Bola Tinubu's second anniversary in office, following a clear directive given by the president to end insecurity. Badru assured the ministry is currently on course to meet the target, highlighting the recent military successes through Operation Fasanyama and other ongoing operations across the country. He indicates Nigeria is beginning to turn the tide against insecurity. The Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, is aggrieved with federal government's failure to fulfill key agreement aimed at improving the nation's university system. Newly elected ASU President Professor Chris Pilma, addressing a press conference in Abuja, described the government's continued inaction on long-standing commitment as a major impediment to the development of the education sector. Pewuna identified unresolved issues of non-implementation of various memoranda of understanding signed since 2013, as well as the partial execution of the 2009 federal government ASU agreement and funding for revitalization of public universities, payment of earned academic allowances, proliferation of universities by federal and state governments, among others. ASU president called on the government to act swiftly to avoid further disruption in the university system. Away from Nigeria, an Ivorian court has dismissed a legal suit challenging Tidjane Thiam's leadership of the Democratic Party in Côte d'Ivoire, allowing him to remain at the helm of the opposition party despite recent controversies over his nationality. The complaint filed by Valerie Yapo, a member of the party's political bureau, argued that Thiam was ineligible to serve as president because he allegedly lost his Ivorian nationality when he acquired French citizenship in 1987. A move she claimed violates the party's statutes. However, the court ruling upheld Thiam's leadership. The decision follows weeks of political tension. Recall in April 2025, Thiam was removed from the national electoral roll due to his dual nationality, jeopardizing his ability to run in the October presidential election. At least 7 Sudanese migrants fleeing the war in Sudan, stranded for days in the Libyan desert, were found dead. The director of the Kufra Ambulance and Emergency Services, Ibrahim Belhassan, revealed 37 Sudanese crossing Libya's border from Chad told a deserted path, often used by smugglers, were discovered in the sand dunes after 11 days having run out of food and water. 22 rescued, among them and 5 children, have been transferred to Kufra in southeastern Libya for medical checkup, while 5 have been declared missing. Bel Hassan said hopes were slim they would survive on foot in a vast desert. Libya, which shares borders with 6 nations and has a long coastline along the Mediterranean, is a main transit point for migrants fleeing war and poverty in Africa and the Middle East to seek better lives in Europe. Ugandan activists arrested and held for days in Tanzania and later found at the border between the two countries told reporters that his adopters violently abused her in detention. Expanding on the earlier remarks of a rights group who said she showed indications of torture, Agatha Tilher alleged that people dressed in plain clothes, blindfolded, sexually assaulted her in detention. Ature was held in Kominikado in Tanzania alongside fellow Kenya activist Boniface Wange. This is Vicinity 95.3 FM, Ikijile Ijesha. Global News will continue shortly. Thanks for staying tuned. For news updates and live streaming, visit our website at vicinity953fm.com.ng. Send us an email to vicinitynewsroom@gmail.com or call 081-4365-8302 for breaking news. You can also follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at Vicinity 95.3 FM. Now the rest of the news. A major prisoner exchange between Russia and Ukraine began Friday. In a report disclosed one of the few signs of progress. It's been reported as one of the few signs of progress from the direct talks in Istanbul, a part of a US-led effort that so far has failed to produce a ceasefire in the 3-year-old conflict. The first phase of the exchange will bring home 390 Ukrainians, with further releases expected over the weekend. According to President Volodymyr Zelensky in a Telegram post, bringing everyone home remains crucial as he commended those working to secure their return and pledged to continue diplomatic efforts to make more exchanges possible. Russia's Ministry of Defense said each side had released 270 military personnel and 120 civilian detainees. Hong Kong to open its universities to more international students affected by the U.S. government's decision to block Harvard from enrolling foreign nationals, escalating the U.S. President Donald Trump's long-standing feud with the prestigious university and tensions between Washington and Beijing over trade and other issues. Trump administration's decision to dismantle the Education Department, which was temporarily altered by U.S. George after Harvard filed a suit, has thrown the future of thousands of foreign students and the lucrative income stream they provide into doubt. Hong Kong Education Secretary Christine Choi called on universities in the Chinese city to welcome international students affected by the United States student admission policy. The European Union's trade chief, Maroš Šefčovič, said the 27-member bloc is committed to securing a trade deal with the United States based on cordial relations. U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to slam a 50% tariff on all goods sent to the U.S. from the European Union. Trump had earlier expressed impatience with the pace of ongoing EU-US trade negotiations, saying his plan to raise tariffs on June 1st was set. The European Union is one of Washington's largest trading partners, sending more than $600 billion in goods and buying over 370 billion naira worth of goods in a year. A bit of sports. Manchester United coach Amorim told to sell every Manchester United player this summer after Shaw's comment. A former Manchester United man, Gary Neville, slammed defender Luke Shaw following his comments after the defeat to Tottenham Hotspur in the Europa League final. The Man U would have aspirations to win the Europa League and play in the UEFA Champions League next season to put smiles on the face of their fans. However, that dream hit the rock when they fell 1-0 to Tottenham in Blackpool. The season has been a frustrating one for Ruben Amorim, the coach, and his men, who would be finishing slightly above the relegation zone when the Premier League ends on Sunday. 10 global news, another look at the headlines. Defense Minister Abubakar Badru reiterates the country stands with total victory over insecurity by the end of 2025 under the administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We told you that the 7 Sudanese migrants fleeing the war in Sudan and stranded for days in the Libyan desert were found dead. Lastly, you heard a major prison exchange between Russia and Ukraine began Friday, one of the few signs of progress from their direct talks in Istanbul. That was Global News. It was edited by Abdul Fatai Giwa. On behalf of the production crew, I am Oluwafunke Israel. Thanks for listening. Please stay tuned for news nationwide at 6 o'clock. Good afternoon.
Music, sports,